Alice Yeoman is looks like he's going to get a start in there as well, Kingy, and he's had a big pre-season running through the midfield. His strength and endurance has gone to another level, so a big opportunity for him.
Unley Oval is the venue, the home of Sturt, on a cracking, very warm afternoon in Adelaide for the Crows and the Eagles to begin the battle. Hutchings digging it out, getting West Coast going. See if their young forwards can get involved. Josh Hill, not so young. His 10th year of AFL footy, and what a fine start for the Eagles, rushing it down. And he's been a terrific story, Josh Hill, like an old teammate of yours, Jono.
That's right.
And certainly when he went across from the Dogs, there was some question marks on whether he would make it, but he's such a dangerous player, isn't he?
He's very classy, especially going back towards goal, which he gets that opportunity here, pushing up into the stoppage, then coming back out to lose his opponent. That's what he's very good at, actually getting in behind the opposition, especially the defensive players, and scoring, running back towards goal. So that's his strength. That's what he plays most of his game like. You'd like to see him, as we've seen probably the last couple of years, coming at the footy a little bit more. He is quite a strong mark and has got quite a big leap for a small forward.
And Mark Rashuda, how do you read the conditions weather-wise in terms of the wind?
Well, it is blowing to the West Coast Eagles end, so probably only a goal or two at this stage, but could strengthen. It's a hot northerly, so they'll be making the most of it in the first quarter.
Well, if anyone knows anything about the weather in Adelaide, it is Roo.
That's right, and that's why the fast start is really important here for West Coast. Fatigue may come into it with these younger players in their first and second years. They've got a lot of those players out there, and that may come into play in the second half. So the first half's really important here when certainly the heat's in the game.
Scott Thompson still doing it so well after all these years. Out to Atkins. Scotty Thompson had that delayed start to last year, but he didn't miss a beat, did he, when the season started? See the ball turned over, and one of the young West Coast players, Corey Adamson, a baseballer who was a professional baseballer in the States at a lower level, and he probably felt that if he was going to, as a talented young footballer, if he was going to ever move back to AFL, it had to be now or never. So he did that last year and spent the whole year in the waffle, getting an opportunity today. It's a big start here for West Coast. Bennell with the flying shot. There's Rory Laird after a breakout year last year for Adelaide.
You can already see the method in which both teams are trying to move the ball. They've had large off-seasons revolved around ball movement, how you stop the opposition moving the ball and how you achieve fast and effective ball movement going forward. The Eagles look pretty slick at the moment.
Big Jonathan Giles getting an opportunity at a fourth club as Adelaide start to move the ball through lines. Back to the wing. Here's Taylor Walker. Big duel between he and Schofield. Eagles on the overlap. Interesting decision to knock it away by Nelson. He was trying to bring McGuinness into the play. We felt he had some support there. Now it's Adelaide all around him. Umpire decides to let it keep going, and the Eagles are able to control. Kane Lucas, you saw there in the 47, former Carlton player, of course. Spent last year in the waffle. Be looking for an opportunity if one opens up. Hardigan, decent-sized defender. The Eagles controlling things pretty well at this stage, John.
Well, they did well to win the ball back across half-back, with Nelson creating the intercept after a fantastic mark from Taylor Walker. And now this movie trying to play on as quickly as they can across centre wing, give their forwards one-on-one opportunities.
And roving the pack and strolling into goal. Bennell's able to pop that through. What a start for West Coast.
They've been fantastic at ground level. They don't look like they've got a dominant marking forward inside the forward 50 at the moment, but they're just getting a good contest, bringing the ball to the front. Hill, we saw cash in on one earlier. We see Bennell, who's had 2 or 3 opportunities already in the first 4 or 5 minutes of play. That's just perfect roving. That is fantastic forward line play for a guy who's spent a lot of time down back. He's been a little bit everywhere throughout his career. So
when you think back to Melbourne, though, he did play more places, but West Coast have had him as a lockdown small defender, so maybe they're going to mix it around this year.
Well, they will have to, because Nelson, Cole, they're 2 young players that they'd like to give an opportunity to as well, and they're their type of player that Bennell is, that running type defender who can lock down at certain times as well.
Crouch looking to reap the rewards of the tap down from Jacobs to Thompson. Was about to be hunted down by Carpenter, but he was able to get it forward to Douglas. Now at the left boot, Crouch again. Follow-up was pretty sound by Adelaide, but as yet hasn't amounted to much. See Miller there in number 30. He's an exciting player you talked about in the opening, Jono.
Yeah, we discussed him, and Kingy brought him up when we're looking at the lineups as well. And just classy. He can find good space when he moves. He's got a great finish. Knows exactly where the goals are as well.
Riley Knight winning the free kick in the back, I think was the call from the umpire.
Really exciting player, Riley Knight. He had a fantastic...
Atkins, I should say.
Yeah, Atkins is the one with the ball in his hand. Now, this will test him, Joe. They need this into the breeze there, as Mark Rashudo has spoken about. They just need a settler here. They just need some composure in their forward half. They've broken down their forward half so far today.
Get the one on the board, settle down, and then let the senior players take control through the middle of the ground.
So Rory Atkins lines up for goal. And you can see it was touch and goal. Go with the post, but sneaks in. And Adelaide on the board. Just settling things down after West Coast had dominated early proceedings at Unley Oval.
Well, Tom Pye could be reasonably happy with that because they had to fight to win this free kick. It was coming through the middle of the ground to start. You see the free kick there for in the back after the disposal of the ball. And Atkins goes back and nails it. But the ball was bobbling around for about 30 seconds or so. So both sides were fighting extremely hard to win it. Adelaide were able to get their bodies in first. And Atkins was the one to capitalise.
One of those younger players last year that got their opportunity late in the year. It was a pretty emotional time, we know, and some of the youngsters really showed something at Adelaide, and he was certainly one of them. So he'll be looking to build on that this year. Both sides kicking straight early. Giles just given Jacobs a bit of a whack there.
Little clip.
Sam Jacobs back in the leadership group. It wasn't the best of delivery for Tom Lynch. He'll be hoping things improve in that regard as the year goes on. Dean Gore, he is part of the Dangerfield trade. Number 36 for Adelaide.
Well, they were so strong last year, the Eagles, as an undersized defence, their ability to intercept the ball or diffuse any high ball problems coming in.
There's Gore.
Everyone thought when McKenzie went down that their year was going to fall away. Spot on. They really did have to fight undersized.
It was one of the amazing stories of the year, really, wasn't it? The whole scenario that presented itself.
Well, it was Shepherd there. You see number 5 on screen. He was the one who had to probably play above his height throughout most of the year.
And he and Wellingham were unbelievable in defence. And sheer weight of numbers. Miller is there with Betts. It squeezes out to Miller, but the West Coast defence holding steady.
Miller he just learned to, I suppose, expect the unexpected in some ways. Hutto, he went back to the ball then when it did pop out to him, hit his foot. So you've got to expect it to pop out quickly in those situations if you are free, especially around the goal square, and make the most of those opportunities if they come towards you.
And we saw Tom Cole for West Coast kicking the ball out there, number 28. You've spent a bit of time with him, Jono?
Yeah, through the AFL Academy, and when we played some VFL sides last April, he was very good, very composed down back in terms of when he got ball under pressure, always managed to find a little bit of space for himself to use the ball effectively coming out of defensive 50.
You might sense there's lots of young West Coast Eagles players this afternoon. We'll tell you why in a moment. Is Miller, young talent for Adelaide. We talked about just couldn't quite happen for him. He dives in again, and he knew that he had to dig it out.
He's not far away, is it? And that's just probably a touch and getting used to speed. And
he's adjusting.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? And it's not far away at all. He had the chance to be clean there twice, once with the grab and then on the ground.
That's the difference, though.
It is, yeah.
That's the understanding that there's bigger bodies around you. The game's being played a lot faster in your head than it is in reality. Had his time again, he would have made sure of that goal. At the junior level, he would have kicked that 1,000 times.
No doubt.
Well, good control by West Coast to be able to keep possession. Adamson again, just bit of slip and slide action as the ball goes over the line and out of bounds. Down near Mark Rashudo. As mentioned, all the young players out there, that's because there's no Cripps, Darling, Hearn, Kennedy, Prittis, Lacroix, Lysette, Marston, McKenzie, McGovern, Natanui, Sheed, Redden, Shuey, Gaff.
As Don Pike mentioned, they're big names, aren't they, of course, but it's just where their program's at. Their next 2 pre-season games, NAB Challenge games, are at home.
Yep.
In the build-up to the home and away season. So leave them at home and get them fired up over the next couple of weeks.
And Cole being put under the pressure here. He's done well against Gore. He's gone to ground, though. He got the backup that he needed with Tom Barras. Sends the Eagles back to the wing. And there's Adamson. He's been impressive so far.
Yes.
Really hard at it off to McGuinness. He's a good type as well. Kicks them inside. Cheney Running back under pressure from Matthew Allen, number 43, another one of the young West Coast. He's a South Australian boy, so we'll see how he fares this afternoon. As Adelaide moving strongly forward. Gore getting into the right places. Not a great handball, though. And he gives it off to another young South Australian playing for West Coast, Luke Partington. You can tell us about him, Jono, when you get a chance.
Yeah, look, another player who just excelled through the under-18 championships and took his game to a new level at that point, and really started to identify, the recruiter started to identify this guy can really rack them up, and his work ethic contest to contest is what helped set him apart for South Australia through that. He was part of the AFL Academy as well, and West Coast have been able to recruit a number of players from the AFL Academy over the last 2 years.
So Bennell has been prominent so far. Tugged it a bit to the left, and that's where it stays.
So of their 9 draft picks, 5 have come from the AFL Academy. So Rowan O'Brien certainly identifying the top-end talent when they've had their selections throughout the last couple of years.
He's just booking his trip to New York every year. That's what he's doing.
Van Berlo, of course, just struggled a bit last year coming back from that Achilles injury. So from his point of view, he'll be hoping that a full pre-season and he can get back to his best footy.
Good start for Matt Crouch here. 8 disposals, 6 of those contested. This is where he does his best work, in and amongst the clearances.
Be a good combination when he gets his brother back out there as well.
The Eagles going deep into attack, and Allen takes the mark. Front of Lever. Pick 62. Was okay in the under-18 carnival. He averaged a goal and a half a game. Really dominated at under-18 level, though, in his 5 or 6 games there with Glenelg. Averaged 5 goals a game. We want to kick a little bit better than that.
Well, he went the drop punt from there. You'd think you'd obviously try and hook that around with the right boot, or do the banana on the left.
A little bit of Tommy Hawkins about the face.
Chiseled cheekbones.
Let's get down, speaking of the chisel, let's get down to Mark Prosciutto.
You talked about Brad Crouch being a good duo with his brother when he gets back. The mail was he had 41 touches in the internal trial Friday week ago, and just pulled up a bit sore. So a lot of Crows fans are out there asking, how about Brad Crouch? Can he stand up with Dangerfield gone? Well, the good news is he should be back next week, and they're very confident that he's over his foot problem. So he'll go a long way to helping fill that void of Paddy Dangerfield.
Yeah, he's a special talent, isn't he? We haven't seen the best of him yet, but at least age-wise now he's getting to that stage where he can make a real impact on AFL level. All indications are, as Saru said, that he will. Seedsman, that is, of course, the former Collingwood player, out there for Adelaide wearing 11. But West Coast winning this around the contest just at the moment. Allen having to spoil it forward. Cheney will see it out.
Just see again there another opportunity at ground level. The Crows more comfortable spoiling the ball than going after the intercept mark down back, and that's the difference between these two clubs as a philosophy right now. I think that Adam Simpson prefers his defenders to back themselves in the air and try and force the purest of turnovers and counter punch at speed.
It was a hallmark of their success last year. At the moment,
and that's a prime example right there.
Yep.
Kingy went for the grab, took the mark, turnover. Look, ideally, maybe a quicker play on may have occurred, but look, reality is that's what Adam Simpson's asking for, like you mentioned.
Laird. And Barras doing a good job so far, prominent with the fist that time.
Well, he's got a big job on Tex Walker, so he'd be looking to just put one away in the early stages for his own confidence and get on top and have a big victory over one of the premier forwards in the competition, key forwards in the comp.
Yeah, be interesting to see how Taylor Walker goes this year. 59 goals in 23 games. Last year, his first as a skipper. Crouch. Kay's kick back to the wing. Butler. Big opportunity for West Coast. Bennell again, sharing it around with Lamb. Allen on the left boot, it favoured him, didn't it? And what a start this is by the young West Coast Eagles side.
Well, Bennell was pushed back to the goal square. Got a little bit of a mismatch on Lever in terms of ground speed. Once the ball hit the deck, Bennell was away. He was able to get back onto the footy first, get in front of Tom Lamb, and then a nice feed here from Lamb back into the corridor, and a good step, good finish as well. And that's once it's hit the deck, that's where West Coast have looked dangerous.
And it's been that man there, Benelli. He's the one who's causing all the problems down there. He's front and centre work. He's always where the ball's likely to fall. Got a great matchup for him at the moment down there, and he's putting his teammates in a really exciting positions for them to have shots at goals or to get really positive possession. I think he's been a revelation down there, Hutto. That could be a find for Adam Simpson today, to have another player who can put tackle pressure on the forward 50 but have the class and creativity to score.
Douglas with a clean exit out of the middle. He did plenty with his kick. Gets it deep. Walker, a little look behind it. Schofield. Might be a free kick. No, the mark paid. Thought there was the whistle, but Brophy, that is. Paddy Brophy, Irishman. Douglas. Oh,
lovely. Let's pass.
Betts off the left. Goes spinning through for a behind.
Boys, Kingy, Jono, do you think West Coast will still play that same style of zone defence if they get McKenzie back next week and also Brown back this week? So a couple of other bigger fellas back in the side. Can you still afford to play the same style as last year?
I think athletically they can, Roo, because you look at the shape they provide. It's all about, as Kingy mentioned before, that ability to intercept mark in the right spot so that they can go and create that fast footy and then obviously get it through some dangerous positions going forward for their key forwards to have one-on-one opportunities against their direct opponents. So I think they can. I think they can create that triangle shape like we saw throughout last 2015 to allow that ability to intercept mark, and away they go.
And do you think it can hold up in finals? I mean, they're disappointing on grand final day, but there's probably other factors other than the defence. But a few people are questioning whether that can play on grand final day.
That's a great question, Drew. I think that's been the discussion for 3 months of the off-season for the West Coast Eagles coaching staff.
Wasn't the best presentation. It was young Harry Deer. And that's Brophy, the Irishman, learning about AFL footy there.
It's the Eddie Betts rule. You've just got to find a way. He's a little bit like Cyril is. They hunt after the tackle as quickly and as immediately as they do possession. If you take 2, 3, 4 seconds roaming around your deep defensive 50, you're in all sorts.
What a year he had. Averaged 2.7 goals a game. Did 5 or more goals on 5 occasions last year, Eddie Betts. And he looks like he's going to be hungry for more this year.
Just getting back to your discussion, Roo, regarding the West Coast Eagles defence. I think one of their real assets with that undersized defence was their ability to counter-attack at speed and with quality. I mean, Wellingham, Hearn played undersized. Shepherd was fantastic. And they were able to use the ball on the way out more effectively than some of those taller players were.
And that's the point I make. If you take away that leg speed when the ball's on the ground, does that take away your strength to be able to score? So time will tell with that one. But I mean, the ball is only in the air for a little while. If you can get it to the ground and you're more nimble there, well, that's why it probably worked so well for them last year. So we'll keep an eye out for that early in the season.
Eddie, one of the players that you boys identified as being crucial for Adelaide this year. So no question about that. Hardigan wrapped up, but got it to Brodie Smith. They're back to the wing, but not for long. Again, the West Coast well structured. Hutchings, who ended up finding his place in the midfield last year, contested ball winner and terrific pressure player. Had more handballs and kicks last year. Had a pretty tough day on grand final, though, but he wasn't alone there. Free kick is going Adelaide's way by the look of it, and no advantage. Coming back to Brodie Smith. Billo misses the handball.
It's a NAB Cup handball, that one, just to blow the cobwebs out.
Crouch has had 13 disposals so far. No one else on the ground has had more than 4.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
No one else can win the ball. He's won 8 contested possessions of 26. So the team total is 26. He's won a third of them.
They have won more of the contested possessions than West Coast, but find themselves just behind on the scoreboard.
I think the biggest change to the Crows this season will be the re-education of some of these midfielders to players forwards, the flexibility to play down back. You just can't be a midfielder only. You just can't be a half-forward flanker only. I think you'll see Eddie Betts in the midfield at times for longer periods and not necessarily deep forward all day.
And that'll be the reason why they've gone with Alice Yeoman through the stoppages, through the centre bounces, because then he's one who has got that ability to play as a half forward or as a small forward, can catch it and knows where the goals are. So they're looking for that flexibility in his game as well.
Van Berlo tries to take advantage. It was there for him. Well done, Betts. Fires out the handball, and Dean Gore, the former Cat, home in South Australia, and at home out here on the middle of the ground at Adelaide Oval, putting it through, and the Crows are in front for the first time. And as we said, he was part of the trade. Spent last year in the VFL for Geelong and comes back as trying to make things fair. Not that anything seems fair for Paddy Dangerfield.
Yeah, that's right. And look, last year he started to go okay for the Cats, and you see his athletic profile here, and look, all their power, speed, agility, they're all above average. Athletically, he's very good, can work on his endurance. That will come. They say he plays like Hanbury. If he gets to those levels, then it'd be a perfect replacement for Paddy Dangerfield over time. He actually had signed a contract extension with Geelong.
Geelong. So they were very happy.
Yeah, they were very happy with where he was, what type of player he was developing into. But as you said, you get the opportunity to pick up Patrick Dangerfield. Something has to give. Dean Gore was part of that.
Jared Lyons goes deep. Eddie exciting the crowd here. Rode out a little bit of contact, whipped it out to Lynch, and he fires it through. So Adelaide getting going now.
Boys, you were just talking about the midfielders going forward for Adelaide. I think that's going to be interesting to watch all the sides to see once again who can do that and who can go forward and have an impact on the scoreboard when they're having a rest in the forward line. You know, we're going back 10 years when rotations first started coming in, and the midfielders then didn't want to come off at the time. I can remember quite clearly not being happy sitting for a few minutes on the sidelines. All you want to do is go forward and try and kick a goal, and Jono, you did that plenty of times yourself, but it really will be a real strength to the top sides this year for their midfielders to go forward and have an impact.
Brew would sneak forward when the game was won and try and kick a couple late too. That's always a little bonus just on the stat sheet, Brew.
Nothing like licking the ice cream at the end of the game, boys.
The class of Eddie Betts in that last contest as well, and I should say the strength of Eddie Betts, the way that he was able to hold his feet to create that opportunity.
So siren ends. Pretty entertaining opening quarter. Eddie Betts was certainly one of the stars. Very creative up forward, as you'd expect. Adelaide 4-2-26, West Coast 3-1-19 on a very warm day in Adelaide at Unley Oval. Things hotting up in the NAB Challenge, as they will all year. Plenty of news stories, I'm sure, coming away. Who better to talk about it each week?
Brodie Smith kick with that highlight we showed where he rushed it out of defence. Where is he trying to get a little bit wider with that now because of the assertive positions of the defenders?
Sometimes you don't have a choice through the pressure that's around you. You just got to clear the area, but we know it's coming back. Yeah. That's the bottom line, and that's probably the biggest change in the game, and that's why we think Adam Simpson will stick with that undersized defensive six. Thompson,
here's Eddie again, getting the crowd excited. Couldn't do it in the air, did do it on the ground, and was just calm and cool as you'd expect. And I reckon Tom Lynch loves playing with Eddie Betts right now.
He sure does. Just before the quarter-time siren, he was able to feed one off to Lynch, kick the goal. There's Eddie crashing the pack, but he keeps his feet. That's the second time in this game where it's been 2-on-1. West Coast players going to ground. Eddie keeping his feet with that agility and that strength in his core, and that's what enabled him to get the ball effectively to Lynch.
Kicked a goal and a half a game on average last year, Tom Lynch. Slots that one for his second, and had his contract extended. There's a bit of interest from other clubs over the off-season, but he's hung around and is going to be part of the furniture there for a while to come.
Oh, you wouldn't be going anywhere with the combination that he's got up forward with Walker and Betts.
Just have a look at this. Some of the small forwards in the competition just have the ability to mesmerise their opponents. You end up spectating as their defender. You can stand there and watch. What's he going to do here? Where's he going to go? Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? And all of a sudden, he chips the ball and you say, I didn't actually do anything.
Yes.
I was in the area, but had no impact at all on Eddie Betts' disposal.
You become so reactive, don't you? Yeah. So worried about what they may do that they do something different, and it makes you look like a spectator.
Strong start to this second term then for the Adelaide Crows, in contrast to the first quarter. Elliot Yeo put the body on the line. Hutchings a slight fumble. Alice Yeoman, look at the good follow-up from Giles. That's one of his strengths, the follow-up from the ruck work. Lucas maybe just got him high. And so Atkins gets the whistle from the umpire. and sends the Crows forward again. Deer in front. Eddie is just turning on a one-man show right now. He doesn't mind giving away the odd free kick if it excites the fans.
Oh, the Eddie Betts pocket this year is going to light up that many times at Adelaide Oval.
He didn't really do much then, did he?
No.
I'm not sure he actually impeded them at all.
You might have a word to Harry Deer. Just leave me alone for a couple of minutes.
Well, it looks like he's got over the shoulder of Giles. No, it's a Adelaide free given.
9-pointer.
And this is for 9, but it's still only worth 1 when you miss.
It's so confusing, those ruck free kicks. That could have gone either way.
Yep.
And every player in the area stopped.
Paul Seedsman, ex-Pirate, firing away goals. Amazing his year last year, wasn't he? He won the Anzac medal, and from there it all went sour for him at Collingwood. We know he's a dynamic player who can run and at his best deliver the ball. Here's McGuinness. To half forward, fist of Cheney was the right thing to do against Lamb. Follow-up was good. Alice Yeoman, Laird, couldn't break the tackle conclusively. Did get the handball out, but that's about where it ends. Lamb to an outnumber. Lever clever. Douglas feeding it back. Cheney now at the back of all that is Luke Brown, another reliable player for the Crows. Good shutdown defender.
That's the kick. That's the important kick to hit. If you can get it into the corridor, it allows that. Everything opens up in front for the forwards. They have all this space to move in to left or right, and they can read the trigger of the kicker so much more effectively. And that's what Tex Walker, with his experience, was able to do on that occasion. But it was the kick from Brown that really opened things up from defensive 50.
It's the first time today. Adelaide have been tougher. They've been better in the traffic and in the congestion, but their ball movement hasn't quite been as fluent as the coaching panel would like. It's the first time they've moved it effectively.
Starts out right, and that's where it continues. (5-4 to 3-1). A really warm afternoon in Adelaide. The heat rule is applied, so we had a longer break at quarter time. And we've got 22-minute quarters with no time on unless there's exceptional circumstances.
I'll bring Mark Rasciuto in on this conversation as well. What are we expecting from Paul Seedsman this year? What will his role be for the Crows, do you think, Mark?
Well, what Adelaide needed, they did get it in the second half of last year with guys like Riley Knight and Rory Atkins, is a bit of outside speed. So Paul Seedsman, Curly Hampton, they've all been built at the club to thicken up that area a little bit. So he's in for a real fight to get that spot, I guess, with some of those young lads coming through.
Well, we almost saw another treat there, didn't we, from Eddie Betts? I reckon if it wasn't so packed here, the crowd would almost think about moving from one end to the other.
Just roll up and down. I like it, Hutto.
Like the old John Coleman rule. He used to have Windy Hill.
Yep.
Plugger, definitely. Back to the wing. Jacobs, good fist from Lever over the top. Opportunity for West Coast. College lays the tackle. Gore. Brown comes in. Cheney there for Adelaide.
Just having a look at the conversation we touched on earlier, life after Patrick Dangerfield. 16-5 of the clearances in favour of the Adelaide Crows, make that 17-5. If they can spread the load, I guess it lessens the effect of losing a star. I mean, Dangerfield's a star, we know that, but they've got the numbers, they've got the spread at the moment.
Eddie's just dropping one there.
And you think with Jacobs being able to rest at times when Jenkins is in the side, so he can take the forward stoppage as well. And he's quite competent in his own ruck work and giving first use and putting it in the right spots for Adelaide's mids and half forwards as well.
Holding West Coast. This time it's West Coast.
Yeah, they get this one.
And that'll be 50, won't it? Oh, I thought he was well over the mark.
Has to be.
It has to be.
You're not allowed to run past within 10 metres, but you can encroach over the mark by about 8.
Back to you, Roo.
I've heard you talking about the rucks before, boys. No one knows what the rule means. So both those ruckmen were wrestling with each other, and it should just be play on.
Yeah.
Miller with some dash. This is a big bomb for 9, and it tried to get there.
the umpire had called not 15 before he even kicked that then.
Ellis just heaved it out the half.
I think that's just going to be a natural call. If it goes to the short to the pocket,
yep.
Play on.
Atkins speared it in the danger area. Schofield. To the back from Mitch Brown. Great to see him back for the West Coast Eagles. On the end of it, Corey Adamson indulges in a bounce as he gets forward to the middle. And a little bit of an aimless kick. Allen comes in with a tackle. It was good stuff from the young man. And Bennell almost...
Again, first back.
Able to get up. Adamson.
That's good pressure. Started with Bennell. He was able to work back to the one-on-one contest. Next into support. Good tackle in the end from Grigg, but the pressure that came then from West Coast forwards to lock the ball in was very good.
Gore didn't quite hit that kick perfectly, but still got to his man. And now they can run again, and it's over to you, Eddie, from just outside 50.
9.
Pumping. Oh, super stuff. Lands the bomb. 9 points for Eddie Betts, and he is the main attraction here this afternoon at Unley Oval.
He's having a day out. I mean, the Crows have been tougher. We know that. They've got the senior core in and around the football at the moment, and when they get out and explode, and they haven't done this too often, but anytime it goes near number 18, something happens. He's had 8 possessions. He's kicked 2 goals, 1. There was no way he was going to pass that ball. He had an obvious target.
Miller was there. I thought for sure he would have brought the young fella into the game and given him his first goal in Crows colours. But
look and learn, son. Look and learn. And the Templestowe Junior Footy Club would love this extra share on some training. There'll be a spring in their step.
Oh yeah.
Come Tuesday night. Great support to the lower levels from NAB. They've been doing it for over a decade. And this is the young man we talked about earlier, Partington, goes short, and that wasn't his best effort. Lyons is able to intervene, and
that's good.
Now they're really getting some pace up through the middle. Miller, a bit of hesitation, decides to go long because Eddie's there again. And he's going to handball this one over the top, and they almost made a meal of it, but Jenkins puts it through. As we go back to Mark Rashudo.
Yeah, good piece of footy there by the Crows, moving the ball through the middle. But Miller, I tell you what, he just moved around, had a little bit of a look, and a very, very good touch with his kick there to get over the top to Eddie Betts. And good idea to give Eddie a couple early in NAB Cups. I think they'll come back to the young fella as the season goes on. So good ball movement by the Crows.
Central District's boy Miller, he's been the talk of the pre-season, Roo, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. They had a picture in the paper the other day comparing him to Andrew McLeod. So putting a bit of pressure on the young fella as well early on. But I know the footy club were pretty happy to be able to pick him up at their first pick, which ended up being about 13 or 14.
I think West Coast will have a look at that entire package as well, or that passage of play, and go back to Partington. And it looked like everyone was sort of yelling at him instead of someone hopefully directing a young player, and he just looked confused in where he needed to go with that foot. He made the wrong decision, and that was the costly turnover.
4 Crows defenders flying for that one with the fist, and an opportunity at ground level therefore for West Coast. Well read by Jake Lever. You're a big fan of his, Kingy.
I am. I think this year he could become an elite intercept player for the Crows. Next year will probably be when he fills out physically and will be able to stand toe-to-toe with some of the AFL's best forwards. But right now, he's just got to get his eye in as an intercept player.
Here's Miller.
Looks good. Does he over the top again?
Is that a bit McLeod-esque? Over to Eddie. Wants to pass it. Sharing the love here. And Taylor Walker even keeping his eyes peeled there to see if anyone might duck into the goal square, but no, he's going to go back and have the shot. What a corner from Eddie Betts.
Yeah, he's been amazing.
Back to you, Roo.
Yeah, you can really see just the Eagles have dropped off their intensity now. They come out at the start of the first quarter and had a real crack, but probably Crows got a wake-up call, and they've just moved into top gear, and the young Eagles just starting to find it a little bit tough to keep up with them at the moment.
You can hear the groan of the crowd as that one came up the boot from Taylor Walker.
That's 2 in a row. He hasn't hit that well. Set shots is where he normally excels.
You just want to see snippets from the talent on display today. It's not necessarily about winning or the margin. That's irrelevant. What we've seen from Miller makes you think that he's in for round one.
Yep.
He plays round one. Just on the 3 or 4 things we've seen so far, Roo, it's so exciting to have quality coming through. Everyone's talking about the loss and what's left Adelaide over the last 4 to 5 seasons, really. Not just Patrick Dangerfield. There's been a whole host of players exit. But to see that quality come in and be ready right now for 2016 is exciting.
I think you're spot on with what you said too. You just want to see your good players do a little bit and your young players get out there and feel comfortable. And certainly Miller has had a couple of touches in the last 5 minutes and just looks right at home.
Lucas takes it back to the wing. Smith screwing it into the danger area again. Back over the boundary line. Adelaide with a super goal. 6-6-51. And West Coast, who was so strong early, kicked the opening 2 goals of the game, have only added 1 since then. Clearance dominance evident. I mean, they do have the bigger bodies and more experienced players, as well as Sam Jacobs, one of the premier ruckmen in the competition, in control of things around the ball, so it should be no great surprise. Hill got the treatment. Douglas fashion it to the square. The Eagles defence on guard with a blind handball from Mitch Brown. Kyle with a sprayed kick.
And that's where the young players that we have spoken about from a West Coast side of things, just finding it a little bit more difficult to get hands on ball. Cole Duggan coming back from the posterior cruciate last year, played 12 games last year and was really up and going. Tom Lamb, only the couple of disposals. Jackson Nelson with 1.
Let's get back to Mark Rashudo.
Just so you know too, boys, West Coast Eagles only playing with 25 today. You can have a maximum of 26, so playing 1 short, so that'll probably hurt late in quarters and late in the game, I would think.
Giles, little armchair ride for Josh Hill. He's lending his more experienced frame to the on-ball team. Good control from Daniel Talia. Douglas, Laird. Just controlling things pretty comfortably right now, Adelaide.
Yeah, you could just see how they controlled and really kept their shape in that passage there, Adelaide. The defenders especially controlled the areas.
It was Gore going short to Thompson, fires out the handball. A little bit of a fumble from Atkins. Let Lucas in initially, and then Nelson is a tough young player. With the disposal dominance there, top left of screen, 140-85. They've really got on top since midway through the first quarter. Yo getting it forward. Here's Lamb.
This is where they're broken down. They haven't got a bona fide AFL target in this team at the moment, and that's obviously going to fall apart today because there's no Kennedy down there, Nick Nat, Lacra's not leading out at the ball. Darling's not there. They haven't got a physically imposing player down there right now, so for them to score, they have to work a lot harder. They probably have to get some drop of ball action from Benell or one of those types. So you can see them failing in the forward half, but they are fighting a fight down back,
especially into this. Yeah, they are, and credit to them for obviously competing the way they are, but it's little mistakes like that, and it's into the breeze as well where they need that big target.
It's just getting bigger and bigger for Adelaide.
Eddie
fell for Eddie.
To him now.
We're hoping Mitch McGovern might have had a run on that one, but it all fell for Eddie, and he's kicked his 3rd. He has been everywhere in this second term.
Really poor turnover at half back there by hand, and it left the Crows an extra player in their forward 50, and it was always going to end up with Eddie. He's having that sort of day, isn't he? It doesn't matter where he starts, but he'll finish with the ball close to goal.
You're right, that should have bounced up for McGovern to just run in, but Eddie's in and around. I think it was Tom Cole that just missed that handball, and that's the costly effect of it, how quickly it just sails through the opposition's goal.
And that's part of the learning process.
Of course it is.
Of a young player is to make mistakes, is to accept that this is a tougher game at this level than what you've been used to. In junior football, that handball may have been okay. You may have had time. But when the stakes are raised like they are, it's only a NAB challenge. But there's a player that takes something back to work on over the next 2 to 3 weeks of training. He may not be ready for AFL football in 2016, but he gets a taste of the speed of the game and the standard that's required.
9 score involvements for Eddie Betts. What a half of football he's produced. Turning it on for the locals. Fraser McGuinness being harassed by Daniel Talia. And he got it again. Such a reliable member of their defence. The leader back there, big Daniel Talia. Still, I think, to sign a new contract. He's out of contract at the end of the year. No doubt, got plenty of interest elsewhere. They're on the move.
Great spoil.
Barras. Couldn't do much with that, and that's out on the fall. The pressure is immense right now on this young West Coast side. Richard Douglas putting the clamps on there. It's going to be Scotty Thompson to line up.
Douglas looking for the free kick. Didn't come his way, but the pressure did come from his teammates to lock that ball in. Create the out on the full.
Thompson went short to Atkins. So just under 4 minutes remaining in this second term.
It's the niner.
Rory Atkins, 21-year-old. Don't think it was for 9. I think it was just inside.
It's a niner.
It is 9, you're right. So another super goal goes up. And the Adelaide crowd very pleased with what they've seen in this second term.
Oh, they should be. That was a brilliant kick. When it came off his boot, I thought he was just going for a high centre here, putting it about 10, 15 metres out from goal. In the end, he just used the breeze perfectly to sail that one through. That's a big kick, big 9-pointer.
He's an elite kick. He's another player that only played 8 games last season. And it's exactly what Mark Rasciuto's saying. If these youngsters can take the next step, bag of footy's off to Maribyrnong Park. They'll be very happy with that. But he's another one that's going to challenge Seedsman for a position. He's going to be on the periphery, maybe a wingman, maybe a half forward. But that sort of finish there just gives him a lot of confidence that he can play at the level. Could be a find for them today.
Glorious kick. Margin now 48, really blown out. A dominant second term in all one-way traffic for the Adelaide Crows.
I think they'd be disappointed to have a scoreless quarter, the Eagles. You can talk about development and what we're about with ball movement and all those sorts of things. Yep. But you'd still like to be scoring. A scoreless quarter is in a lot of ways a really disappointing day at the office for them. 5
goals, 5, including 2 super goals in this term to nothing, as Kingy said. Inside 50s this quarter, 14-5.
They get the opportunity here. Jenkins, big tackle, took 2 players to get him to ground, but they're able to do that, win the ball back.
And Brad Shepherd, who was a high draft pick originally, but had really struggled at the move back to defence last year. He was a revelation for them. Talia keeps it low, finds Gore. He's done a couple of nice things.
He moves really well.
Switches on, and again Rory Atkins getting into the right places. Down to Miller. Let's see if he can get this cleanly.
He's dancing.
He had Brophy on him, the Irishman.
Oh, nice. Look at that. He's popped that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 West Coast players there, and he's popped it right in between all of them with some class and composure. Just didn't bomb away at it.
I like the shimmy. Most young players coming in would have just snapped that ball over their left shoulder to the top of the goal square, follow the team rules, and nothing to see. You move on. But to have the patience and assess there's more up for grabs stamps his quality.
Another goal on the board for Adelaide, this time through Sam Jacobs. I mentioned.
Let's have a look at this, Hutto. When he gains possession here, he slows down, like all stars do. He thinks, right now, I've got time. I can do more than just put the ball to an area. I can favour one of my forwards or a leading player. It's the ruckman on the lead. I mean, that's probably the hardest player in the competition to hit, a ruckman on the move. Fantastic patience and poise. We know he's got skill. We know he's going to hit that target, but to take the time required in his infancy, first game in NAB Cup football, fantastic.
Sam Jacobs, who was in the leadership group 2 years ago, didn't have a great year in 2014. I think he mentioned afterwards that maybe that impacted him a little bit. He was concentrating on others rather than his own game. And so he was out of the leadership group last year, but he's back in now. So he and Richard Douglas, an expanded leadership group, under Don Pike.
Sometimes you find with leadership that, yes, you might want to be a part of all of that. Sometimes it's not for you. You need to really find your way in that area.
Half-time, a dominant quarter from the Adelaide Crows. Eddie Betts was the star young. Wayne Miller, who's got a taste of what he can produce. They've kicked 6 goals, 5, including a super goal. And the Eagles into the breeze.
Profile, the shimmy. We get the agility and the shimmy. Elite at the shimmy.
He's had 7 disposals. 4 of those have become scores. They're the sorts of players that every club's looking for.
That's right.
You can easily build that possession base to 20, 22 possessions a week, but creating scores is what it's all about.
West Coast have the breeze in this third quarter. And they'll need to utilise it, obviously, to get back in the match after being kept scoreless in the second term.
Fast start to open the match, West Coast going this way, so they'll be looking to replicate that, get a couple on the board early and try and work their way back towards a closer contest here.
Van Berlo getting it into Lynch, who's enjoyed working in tandem down there with Eddie Betts. And Taylor Walker getting in on the act right now.
See, that'd be really disappointing from a West Coast point of view. They had 3 players there fighting the fight, and not one was able to defuse that high ball coming. It was a slow entry. Generally a well-organised defensive unit, the West Coast Eagles. I know there's a senior core not out there today, but younger players should be able to do that.
Locals getting their own photos from nice close location of Taylor Walker. That's drifting back. He's read the breeze superbly. The goal umpire's lost his hat. It's all happening down there.
It's a good kick from Taylor Walker. He had a couple of set shots in the second quarter and didn't hit them well at all. One missed right, one hit the post. And able to think about it at half-time. And he likes it from out at this distance. He kicked a big one against the Bulldogs in the final from outside 50 in this area of the ground at the MCG. He just loves it out here where he can actually get the big leg and launch him, and the power behind it. And that sailed through against the breeze quite comfortably.
He's in for a big year, a massive year. 59 goals in 2015. He's their leader. He's the one who demands of his players. He demands from his leadership group, and he is the enforcer for the Crows. I think he's in for a huge year this year coming.
And some thought a shock selection as captain. But what he's been able to do and perform on the back of being the main leader at Adelaide last year was just a great effort, and he will go to another level in all areas, especially his leadership again with more experience under his belt.
We talked about the breeze. Roo, what do you reckon it's doing at the moment at the start of the third quarter?
It's pretty much the same as the first half, boys, so it will favour the West Coast Eagles, and let's hope they come out and well, here's Eddie, he's off again. Let's hope they fire up, otherwise this is going to be an absolute flogging here in the second half. So come on, the Eagles.
Technically,
you got that on tape.
He did not mean that. That did not sound genuine at all.
We'll go back and we'll get another look at this mark from Eddie Betts as well. But technically, that was absolutely spot on, because that's the one where you get your hands in the back.
You can't put your hands in the back.
No, you're not allowed to, and that's why technically it was brilliant from Eddie Betts. And we'll get another look. He was able to kick the goal. Easy shot at goal for Eddie Betts.
I disagree with you here. I reckon this is confusing for a defender.
Look, that's perfect.
That's early.
Absolutely perfect from Eddie Betts. Because if you put your hand up there, it's a free kick against, and that's what they train. That's how they train these forwards. With a defender coming back on you, elbow in, shoulder in, take the mark.
Didn't think you're allowed to do that.
With you, Jono.
Oh, that was a clear mark. Clear mark.
Roo's confused. He's not sure who's barracking for you.
He wants just to keep the lid on it. He knows that Monday morning all the hype around town will be huge, and he'll have to try and douse it a little bit.
We're all barracking for Eddie.
Yeah, true.
85-19, margin extended out to 66. And let's see if West Coast can create some opportunities to score with the breeze in this third term. Josh Hill, who was prominent early. Hutchings putting his body on the line, as he always does. And this West Coast team, as we've talked about, without most of their superstars, but I think you could have every reason to be very optimistic about the year ahead with what they've added to their squad. They obviously lost Sinclair. They lost a bit of experience in Matt Rosa, but being able to bring in Jetta and Redden, I think it could only help.
They've got the second best rated list in the competition behind Hawthorn this season. They've got the 10th toughest draw. So it's a great draw from what is a high base. I mean, they won 16 home and away games last season to finish second on the AFL ladder. I'd be thinking they'd be winning 17 or 18 this year, given their home ground dominance and the list quality. So it's onwards and upwards for the Eagles from mine, John. I'm not sure where you sit.
No, yeah, exactly. Their home games they'll dominate those. They'll win the games they need to on the road as well, especially against the bottom 8 sides if they travel and play them. So they get up around that and give themselves every opportunity to have a red-hot crack at it again.
Liam Duggan, we saw him in number 14 putting the tackle on lines, or trying to. Here's Miller again, breaking out, was thinking of the handball, but instead it's a bullet to Josh Jenkins, who hasn't had to do too much so far, just his second mark and his second disposal coming up.
This will be another score involvement for Miller. It'll be 8 disposals and 5 score involvements. So that is exactly what you're after from a player with this profile. Elite speed. We now know elite poise and composure,
right,
and the foot skills to match. This has been an absolute find today. He's been the biggest story of the day. Eddie's been the show, but this guy's the story.
Here's Josh Jenkins then. Oh, needs to come back, and it is. He knew what he was doing. Went to school on Taylor Walker's kick, and he's put it through for another goal.
And here he is, Kingy, Miller, and that's the thing. He's got that time and awareness. He makes the right decisions, and sometimes you can, as a player coming in, rush a disposal because you think pressure's going to come from behind. Because the talk going into the game is things are going to be quicker for you today. You're going to have to make sharp decisions. He's making those under control, and that's the most important thing. That's the pleasing thing, watching him perform his craft this afternoon.
So cool.
Yeah.
He's using a balk that we see players like Brent Harvey use after 400 games of AFL. He's using that already. He's putting defenders into awkward positions. He's freezing them, if you like. Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? And they end up getting no play on him. He's been fantastic today. In the middle now.
Good hands in tight from Gore to get them going, and Laird, Lynch getting in on it as well. Walker flew early. Mitch Brown lays a big tackle on Gore. Got some help there as well.
Boys, with West Coast having so many players out of their side, it does make it tough for their youngsters to really have an impact on the game. Where do you stand on having so many good players out in round 1?
It's a really good question. I think it's all about how many minutes you're looking to achieve from each player. I don't think the results are important. I don't think a heavy loss is any bearing on your season or your start to your year.
But it's a good point about do they learn a lot in this, or is this they're getting beaten by so much that they don't necessarily get the lesson that they would get if there was more support around?
They probably get a lesson individually on who they might be playing on in certain stages. Midfielders running around and following Thompson, for example, or understanding his strength in the contest and where they may need to get to over the next year or so in their own football development. So I think there's certainly a number of lessons individually they can learn.
Get back to that in a moment.
Well, the back line,
better watch Harry Deer having a shot. Roo, tell us about him.
Well, he was picked up a couple of years ago, has had a lot of injuries, but he's a big brute up forward and he's very aggressive, and the Crows are hoping that they can get him sound and just give him some game time, get some minutes into him so he can actually see how good he can be. But they're hopeful that he might put a bit of pressure on Josh Jenkins to try and take that key forward second ruck spot.
He's a good size, isn't he? He's had shoulder injuries, as Roo said, which then he only played 4 games in the SANFL last year in his first year, but he was a deadly accurate kick for goal as a junior, and it looked like a beautiful style we saw there.
That's a lovely kicking action, very simple. But I think Roo likes the fact that he's aggressive, by the sound of that, hello. He likes aggressive players, Roo. I'll tell you, from the West Coast Eagles' point of view, I would have liked to have seen more today from Liam Duggan, who's only had the 2 disposals, and Lewis Jetta, who's had the 1. So that is a really poor day for players that are looking to stamp themselves as first picked 22 players, not depth players.
Yep.
Not nice to have type players. They want to be in that first 18, if not 22.
And that's why I asked that question, boys, about some of those types of players that can't get into the game because their side's not in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, they have minimal impact.
There was Duggan having a shot for goal, hitting the post.
It just comes down to where your club see things out, your philosophy going into this. And Rue had a good chat with David Noble at half-time, and if you missed it, the point behind the conversation was that they will continue to play the senior players, although they've got a big lead in this game, in this second half, because next week most of them will get a week off leading into the last NAB Challenge game they've got against Fremantle away. So it depends on where you are, where you're travelling to. That determines what type of side you roll out in these early parts.
And West Coast are home for their next two, home state, so they'll put the minutes in then. I think both sides like to have their best team together in that last NAB match, NAB 3.
Yeah, full dress rehearsal.
And there's Lewis Jetta, as Kingy referred to, just 2 tackles and 1 kick for the day. That's it.
His experience, you expect a lot more from him today. Yeah, he might rely in the end on Critis and others.
Gee,
lead.
look at that from Deer. What a sign that is.
Not paid.
Not paid. The umpires have lost the theatre
of today. Oh, no, that's why.
They paid one of them to Gary Ablett, Senior.
Still bitter, King. Kay with a breakaway speed. To half forward, just over the head there for Taylor Walker. Schofield. Looming, it was Mitch McGovern.
He's gone to ground a lot today, Schofield.
There's Deer again. Hutchings. There's the Eagles' defence, Lucas. Who's been okay, he's had a crack. It's been tough going. No player for West Coast into double figures. There's Deer.
That's what we're talking about, is lacking at the West Coast Eagles end of the field. Just that big body, that target you can put the ball in the direction of and give you really good reference points to Crum. Not always going to mark the ball, but you're not going to be outmarked when you attack it like Harry Deer has.
So 14 goals to 3, and all 2 super goals amongst them. Eddie tries to eke that one through, but as you saw, flex the post along the way.
Has a look at the crowd, they give him an applause. I love the way he operates, Eddie Betts. Brings everyone into it, all his teammates, the crowd.
Don Pike. He's a fine player for the West Coast Eagles. As I said, spent a couple of years here learning the craft at Adelaide a long time ago with Neil Craig. He's got other business interests along the way, but has decided to have a crack at senior coaching after being with West Coast. Crows force another turnover. Alice Yeoman, and beautiful strike. And he finds Taylor Walker, who's capable from here, but wants to lay it off. We know Brodie Smith's a thumping kick. And he tosses that one up into the breeze, but misses the lot.
He's been a talking point all pre-season too. I might bring Mark Rasciuto in on this conversation. Where his best position is for the Crows in 2016, is it as he was last year as a damaging halfback flanker, or does he need to now be elevated into a higher position in the true midfield, even in a 10 of bounces, Rue, because he's such a damaging kick, Brodie Smith?
Yeah, I think you saw last year in the second half of the year, Adelaide got a lot better when he was playing well across half-back, just to break the lines, and you know how important a penetrating kick is with the way that sides defend as a team these days. So I really like him at half-back. I think they should stick with him there, and especially if they've got enough speed through the midfield as is. And he's a beautiful kick, and you just see last year on so many games that the good sides can penetrate through the zone with beautiful kicks. So very, very dangerous at halfback.
Alice Yeoman lining up for goal. He was one who started with a real bullet next to his name in pre-season last year and began the regular season nicely as well. That's a lovely kick. He puts it through, but maybe just tailed off a little bit as the year went on. But he looks like he's had a big pre-season and is ready to go as the Crows can raise the bat. They've got up the century up, 104 now, and West Coast still 3-2-20. What about Don Pike? Rue, obviously you're heavily involved in his selection. Can you tell us a bit about the attributes and what he brings to the job?
Look, he's a very smart man, which you don't have a lot of them in football, but he's doing a fantastic job, and I think he's set up to be a good long-term coach, and that's what Adelaide needs at the moment with the amount of change that's been at the footy club over the last few years. He's been in business, he's a great communicator, very smart, been at a good system at West Coast as well. His kids are adults now as well. He's got a great wife, and I think he's at the right time of his life where he could just devote 110% of his life to football, and I think that's important as well.
It's a good point you raise. I mean, you look internationally, coaches don't get their opportunity in the US until they're generally deep into their 50s, if not older. We tend to promote past players fairly quickly. They learn on the job, if you like. It is a different industry in that way, the AFL industry.
And I think the growth of the pathway now for the younger coaches, what they have to go through in terms of all the extra, I suppose, study and learning different aspects of football clubs and different positions to then put themselves forward, hopefully will then keep them in good stead if clubs go that way in the future.
Fraser McGuinness. Off the hands, snapped Carpeney.
Well done.
And he's done well. Malcolm Carpeney, 20-year-old in his third season at the Eagles. And he had an injury initially through his first year, which didn't help his development, but real pressure small forward. Picked 31 in the 2013 draft.
It's a good effort right here, right in the middle of the contest, and was then able to, nice left foot snap. That was natural too. That was, didn't think about it, knew where to go, knew what his ability was on that side of his body, and just nailed an easier opportunity, it looked like, for himself. Front and square, in some traffic, and they're the little things that you're talking about. That then Adam Simpson looks back and goes, okay, we know that's it, so now we can train him to get front and square more, teach him that part of his game to have an impact for the Eagles if he gets that chance.
Finally a goal for West Coast. Let's see if they can add another couple more while this quarter is still alive with the breeze for them. Hacked out of there by Nelson. Good rundown from behind. Shepherd earns the free. Half back for the West Coast Eagles.
Hold there on the 50. Move it on. Play on.
Bombs away back to the wing, but it's all Adelaide. Talia.
He's done that a number of times. Talia just takes that position down the line, intercept mark, and then plays on immediately. And I think that's the key then to getting back through quickly to allow this.
Gore to Brown to Atkins to Lynch. And now to Walker.
It's the first time I've really seen Daniel Talia go after the ball and try and intercept mark. He's been more familiar with the spoiling, one-on-one negating role. But today he looks like the mindset's changed, Ru, and maybe that's the new innovation from having a new coach, a new outlook on the football.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Don Pike tries to get Adelaide to play that attacking defence like the West Coast Eagles were so good at last year. And certainly Daniel is a player that tends to stay by his man and try and shut them down. But he's certainly taken some grabs today, but it is up against a pretty lean opposition, I would say.
And that's what I was going to say to you, Ru, is that a structure that they see today and they stick with because it does work for them, especially if it's slow play down the line? Or is he going to have to then have that responsibility if Kennedy's out there? Do they have the courage to still put Talia in that position to intercept mark?
Yeah, well, it'll be a big change for him. As I said, he's not used to doing it, so we'll have to wait and just see which way Don goes. I'm sure when you're on Josh Kennedy, though, the number one thing you'll be focused on is Josh instead of zoning off. But that's where it gets tough, isn't it?
Corey Adamson did some nice things early. He's got amongst it there. Oh, it's crunching tackle, and the Eagles trying to gang tackle. But Brodie Smith was able to ride that one out. And now they can run through Crouch to Thompson.
Oh.
Giving into the middle, you can see the options are opening up. Miller is away to his left, Lynch, but instead he goes in front of Jenkins. Trailing in Mitch Brown. Protection from McKay. Jenkins off the left, just chipping back for Lynch. Doesn't quite get there, not a major drama. Coming out on the lead, almost the one-hander to Thompson. Applied the pressure. Lewis Jetta got a handball out of there. Barash using his left boot. And he finds Butler.
I think Adam seems to be disappointed in this facet of the West Coast today. They haven't covered the ground and provide uncontested options on the way out. They haven't played with any real speed or dare. It's been pretty slow. Ball moving out off their half-back line and deeper defensive areas. I just think that that's one thing these young kids could have brought, is a real energy to try and excite. It hasn't happened.
It's like that they didn't want to make a mistake doing that, and that's what can slow the play down when you've got a number of young guys in your side. That you don't want to pull that trigger on the 45 kick. If you make a mistake, it's going to hurt you. But you'd think that would have been drummed into them pre-game. Look, if you make the mistake, it's not going to matter. We still have a go of it. We still play the way that we want to.
Lever. Cross half back to Smith. Commanding presence back there with a run the boys talked about. Van Burlo. Oh, Eddie Betts. Been quiet for a few minutes. Got noisy there. Got the crowd noisy anyway.
Oh, look at that leap. The turn and jump.
As it turned out, he was about 6 inches off the ground when he nearly marked it. But wow, he's on.
Margin 84 at Unley Oval. Lamb getting
a couple of good marks from Lamb now in that position.
Dangerous young forward, just the one game at AFL level last year, Tom Lamb. And showed that he certainly got some talent. A little bit inconsistent even at waffle level, so that'll hopefully come as the years pass. Free kick against College goes to Dean Gore. Handball was too quick for everyone else from Crouch. Put their head down there over it. No free kick to College. Dug out by Lynch.
The Crows' numbers here. The support in waves. Outnumbering the West Coast 8-5 in that last little contested ball opportunity. And numbers will always win out. And that's something that's drummed in right throughout pre-season. Provide support for your teammate. Sometimes you have to come out backwards by a hand to get yourself going again, but as soon as that rugby run starts, it's very hard to stop.
Duggan, interesting.
Should be free.
Well, umpire said no, that's okay. Thought it should have been deliberate out of bounds.
Not sure what his intentions were, apart from getting an extra disposal. He's only had 5 today, so you take whatever you can, Hubbo, when you're having a day like that.
No doubt. All right, three-quarter time. Another dominant display by the Adelaide Crows, who are just a little bit too powerful today with their lineup. Kicked another 6-1 in that quarter, and hence the lead is 84 points. Of course, there's more footy coming up right throughout the afternoon with the Q Clash still to come on Fox Footy, but another quarter to go between Adelaide and West Coast next.
The 12, 15, 18 possession type games, to be stuck around the 4 or 5 after 70 minutes of football is a real concern. You just need to see them getting some sort of reward for their efforts.
Well, you rarely see in today's footy at three-quarter time a side with no one over 10 disposals.
Well, they've had more contested possessions than uncontested possessions, West Coast, and that goes to, as King was saying, how hard it's been to get free football this afternoon, which is such a contrast to the way the game's played. Adelaide defence on guard. Cheney wasn't the best of handballs, but he backed it up to be an option on the way out for Brown, and now Smith covering the turf in fine style to Jacobs. They just keep it moving at all costs. The ground went underneath. Didn't help David McKay there. Oh, look at Smith again. Great player to watch in action. And the next handball from Douglas just about gets them into the clear. Thompson strolling through the middle. And not bad being a forward.
Look at that Smith handball. He was under some sort of pressure, and to flick that back just opened things up.
What was Eddie grumpy?
Oh, no, what do you... He was either calling someone to keep running, or who knows.
It's not a 9-pointer is the main reason.
He wanted someone maybe to come past the handball off for a 9-pointer.
That looks pretty free flowing through the air. Almost touched on the line, but it's through for another for Eddie Betts. What an afternoon he's had. He's now kicked 5 goals in all, one of them a super goal.
They're pretty disappointed with the Eagles defensively. I think when you're able to step through traffic like this and basically waltz your way past a couple of the Eagles, really, that's getting around 6 players.
Look at that.
And then all of a sudden you've got numbers in the corridor and your defenders have got no hope defending this sort of play. Absolute corridor with ease, really. I think Adam Simpson and the coaching panel will be disappointed there's not enough pressure around the actual contest to create turnovers down the track.
And that the difference was then, you see McKay slipped over and then got up again, received the handball from Smith, and then was next to Eddie Betts when he took that mark. So he ran past 6 or 7 Eagles players who didn't put a block on him and stop even his run pushing forward.
Back down to you, Roo.
We just spoke about Brodie Smith earlier, but if you don't have players like that can play across half-back, that are prepared to take the game on and hold on to it and really split the game open, you're not going to get clear ball in your forward 50, so they're just so valuable, and that's the reason why I think he'll stay at half-back this year.
Yeah, that was a good argument for it, wasn't it, that bit of play?
You got your way, Roo. You generally get your way in Adelaide, though.
Cross half-back, Tom Cole.
I suppose.
Number 28, there he is, following up. Tom Cole putting a tackle on.
See, that's better. That's the standard at the Eagles. They've set that standard. We're not making the standards.
No.
The competition sets them, and the Eagles are at the forefront of that. 3 and 4 players there to lay tackle pressure, not allow the Crows to step through, which they've done for the bulk of the day.
No chance.
Just watch Joe there.
Watch him.
If he gets up.
Right. Get the meter. 1 metre.
Hutchings now 10 disposals, the only player in double figures. Scotty Thompson getting more and more of the ball as the game goes on.
Here they go. We need to see something positive here.
Left foot kick from Butler to half forward.
Hold! Stay out!
And this man's done a pretty good job. He's given them something. It's his 10th disposal.
Can't run through the mark.
Teammate running through the mark there.
Just slows it down.
They're on a fast play. Now you look inside that defensive 50 for the Crows, and there's just numbers everywhere. And they don't really have a bona fide tall target, the West Coast Eagles.
Giles had the spoil to try and keep it alive again. His follow-up work was excellent. Lamb searching, eyes peeled for a teammate. Duggan screws it back to the square. Courageous by Bennell to try and take the mark, but couldn't quite. And College.
It's a bit sore, Benally got the good knee right in the base of the lower back.
Get a metre, boys. Get a metre.
As Elliott
Third
Young.
man up and lost his feet.
Oh, that was very nearly a goal for Hill. Stays alive, though.
Just see in the background more and more Eagles players walking.
We saw the same thing yesterday with the young St Kilda outfit.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of... We were talking about how this is a good setup. Duggan's a good long kick.
Hold on. Still, mate.
Went for the pass. That's where you've got to have the confidence in the...
Well done.
Let's go back, have a set shot from that position.
He will. Been tough today for the West Coast Eagles forwards to get any sort of synergy and any sort of cohesion. They've lacked star power down there. They've lacked tools. We've spoken about that all day. So it is hard to find areas to run if you are a Josh Hill, if you are a crowing player like Bennell's been today. Or the forwards, the midfielders resting forward haven't had that luxury either. So it really just hasn't worked for them in the forward half today. But their pressure is the one thing that's probably disappointing as well.
Margin 89. Busy intersection there at half forward.
What's been the one thing, Roo, that Don Pike, do you think, will hang his hat on? He's made some statements throughout this pre-season. It's been pretty much a closed shop, the Adelaide Crows. A lot of closed training sessions, kept that intel in tight. What will be the one thing that Don will demand?
Well, I think what he needs to demand, Kingy, is a better defence outfit for Adelaide. You highlighted before the game started that they were third in the comp for attacking behind West Coast and Hawthorn, but their defence was in the bottom half of the competition. So if he can stiffen that up and get a better defensive unit, I think it gives them a lot better chance of being a finals performer. So defence will be his key.
He's a strongly analytical man, isn't he, too? I mean, he loves his numbers and his stats, and obviously that has a huge place in modern footy, getting that balance right.
10th rated
getting
defence.
it right, and also, getting it right, and also relaying it as well, Hutto, so you don't confuse the player and give him too much information.
10th rated defence last year, as you said, 3rd rated attack. They're not far from it all working. Everyone keeps coming back to the Dangerfield loss, but structure and flexibility can overcome that. It's just to what levels.
Maybe a little hand in the back there from Josh Jenkins. Now Nelson out of defence. Well, not out of defence for long. Miller turning and on the chest. Douglas had the luxury to run into some more space and pop it through for a behind.
It's amazing. You take your foot off, just switch up a little bit, it goes slower, and that happens. Happens on a regular basis. You see it all the time.
Haven't been able to control the game at all today, the Eagles. They've taken 30 marks. The Crows have taken 64. They've beaten them up at the clearances, the Crows, and the Eagles will take a lot of learning from this one. There's their last 5 seasons. You can see their finishing position. It is tough to break from that middle third of the AFL table. You've nearly got to get a gun in, a Dangerfield style player coming in rather than going out to spike into the top 3 or 4 teams.
Thompson heaves it. Cross into the pocket. Schofield in front, but being nervous because he knows that Eddie's not far away.
You kick this play on.
Oh, Eddie's
That's holding it. That's dropping it. Normally you get tackled, the ball touches the ground. It's all over for you.
It's pre-season, isn't it?
It is.
You can tell.
Probably the ball touched the ground, but he was still holding it at the time. That would be the argument, I suppose. He was in control. Brown could pump it back from where it came inside 50.
West Coast getting set for a big start to the year. Start with Brisbane, then they go Hawthorn, Freo, Richmond, Sydney. So, first 5 weeks, they could be 3-2. They could be 5-0. That's the unknown with the competition. But it is a tough start for the Eagles.
Brown with a bit of breeze behind him. Timed that beautifully. Just the 6. The man on the mark was just inside the 50 that time. And so the 100 lead now registered by the Adelaide Crows. 102 in front. 19 goals in all. 2 of them super goals. 129 to 4-3-27. 3 of those first 4 at home, Domain Stadium. You would be expecting to win those games. The Eagles very rarely lose over there.
Freo's probably the one that's the tougher of them. Hawthorn away and then Sydney away to finish the top first 5 games.
But the 10th rated draw. So there's opportunity for them this year. The Adelaide Crows are a fascination. They've ended up with the 2nd toughest draw in the competition after finishing 7th on the AFL table. So it's going to be a tough season for every club.
Of course.
We're crystal balling a little bit, but they need to hit the ground running this season, given the fact that they're in that mix with 6 to 8 sides fighting for that, what we presume to be the bottom half of the 8.
Here's Miller again. Poking the ball forward, getting it closer to goal. Alice Yeoman on the end of the pass. Now he can line them up. 13th disposal coming up. Cam Ellis-Yeoman. Played 11 games last year, averaged 16 disposals. Could probably go to that next level by adding a bit more of an outside game, as well as getting the contested possessions and clearance work. Deere had a couple of cracks at it. And that spun through from Dean Gore. So he's done a couple of nice things as well.
Kicked a couple of nice goals today to go with the 12 disposals. You see Alice Yeoman here, and he's in the middle of the ground, gets the bump, first disposal, and then just continues to work. Then gets goal side of Yo, identifies his time to move, and then shifts into open space here to get it off McKay. So good running. It doesn't have to be powerful all the time. It doesn't have to be a quick sprint. Sometimes you just got to get yourself in the right spot to then pop into the hole. But it's good work rate out of the stoppage as well, especially late in the game, hot conditions. For a young man to be able to continue to do that is really positive.
108 points now. Partington got them going. That was a good clean exit out of the middle. The Lucas kick intercepted by Hartigan.
He's put some size on Kingy over the summer.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good. I think that most players are looking to achieve something out of the summer period. Some that are trying to lose weight, pick up some agility, some speed. Some trying to put on some size so they can go toe-to-toe with the bigger players in the competition. Most key defenders now appear to be leaner now than what they've been over the previous decade or so. They're incredibly powerful and incredibly strong. Hartigan's going to be a fascinating watch.
Well done by Corey Adamson there. I know the shots ended up missing from Hill, but worked really hard, ran across, won the footy, Jono.
Yeah, it was a good effort. He went back to create the spoil, some courage shown there.
He's had 10 disposals today.
But what kept him alive was keeping his feet, not falling in the contest, and then just look the push forward. And sometimes you just need to get a quick disposal, go your way, and
showed good footy, good instincts.
Fell into the hands of Hill, who should have finished that goal, that opportunity with his class.
Seedsman has only flashed in and out a bit today. 10th disposal as he drives for the outer wing.
It's a good kick.
Was for Smith.
I think the fascination with what David Noble said to Mark Rashudo earlier in the day is they go forward here.
Here's
Deary.
Already kicked one at the other end. And oh dear, he's missed that one. Might as well be the first to go with it.
Seedsman, it's a great kick here, and this is what he can do, and that's why I think when the coaches are talking to him, they're talking about damage. You need to be a damaging player for us. He's had 10 disposals, but 3 kicks, 7 handballs. He needs to be an 80-90% kicker. All his damage is by foot.
Look at that kick.
As we just witnessed at half back. They don't want him handballing the ball. He needs to take responsibility to be the laser, if you like, in the midsection of the ground. That's his job, Roo. You'd agree that he's there to be a damaging player, Paul Seedsman?
Yeah, absolutely. Just adding more depth through that midfield. We spoke about trying to get more Adelaide players, more outside players for Adelaide, and Seedsman, Menzel, Atkins, all those players fit in that bill with Brodie Smith. So, I mean, if he could go back and play halfback, then you might be able to put a Brodie Smith into the middle. So time will tell on how he stands up and whether he can get more consistent.
It's a great kick here from Lynch. Just look, opportunity to go long, sees Walker. That's amazing vision just to see that amongst so many players in his direct line of vision. And then Tex Walker has started that through. He straightened himself up after half time.
That might be his new nickname.
Yeah, Wex
just dropped in.
Wex Walker. He's done well. A great combination again between himself and Eddie Betts. Has got the 6 goals today, and Walker's got his 3. 5 shots on goal for Tex Walker.
Oh, Wexy. 114 points the margin now. There's Deer. He's certainly shown some promising signs this afternoon for Adelaide Crows fans. Thompson from the stand start. Directed to full forward. Oh, he was up and over without touching the ball, Barras. Lyons giving Lynch an opportunity. Wants to hand it off. Now decides to go by foot, just chiseling it up high. And Lucas didn't quite.
Well done.
McGovern.
Well done.
He did off the left. Mitch McGovern. Doesn't look unlike his brother.
Funny that.
Screws it back off the left boot.
That's classy play. That is just a want to compete, a desire to compete early and not allow the easiest of marks to the West Coast Eagle defender there. Nelson, I think it was. He stayed in the contest. It's a classy finish, but he just stayed in the contest. And again, that's one of those little nuggets you're looking for from younger players. Just show us something. Show us you can bring something to the table.
And he kicked 4 goals in their final competitive hit out intra-club match simulation set up as well. So he's shown a little bit there, a little bit more today against opposition.
191 centimetres he is.
Everyone's 191 at the moment.
As the margin blows out now to 120 points with just
Good
over
hands.
5 minutes remaining.
Well done.
Just for 6, and it hangs on. Jordan Snadden, a young man we haven't seen a lot of. Jono, you know, I think he's another academy.
Yeah, he is. He's an academy boy, and look, he's got that ability. His work rate's quite high. Natural sort of a midfielder who can just push from at that junior level, push from contest to contest, and good effort there to push forward and nail that one from 50. Would have been nice if it was half a metre back. Kingy get the 9-pointer on the board, but he's a good young man, and he's got some good footy ahead of him. He'll play some good waffle footy as well along the way, and just continue his development throughout 2016.
Only played 2 minutes in the first half. He's played 31 minutes overall, so he's played a fair bit less than the rest of his teammates today. Obviously a managed process. Ooh, Gore flying through. Good pressure applied. The Eagles just to lock it in their forward half and hope that it can produce something. Talia, Lamb. You can see where Talia wanted to get it over the boundary, but took him a while.
He's gone.
Surely that was close to being holding the ball. Talia thinks it's mildly amusing, I think. Eddie swing and a miss. Oh, Van Berlo shook the head as soon as he kicked it.
Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, this is the difference between your training through pre-season where you can get away with little errors like this. You need to just knock these chinks out in the pre-season competition, and little dump kicks like that anywhere in your defensive 50, you're always going to pay a price, given the zoning that happens in modern football.
Jordan Snadden, we mentioned him a moment ago. He's a rookie for West Coast. Hits the post about halfway up. East Freo boy. Good pressure play. Speaking of pressure, Carpenter's also one of his main attributes, and Allen drags in the mark.
There was a poor kick out from Adelaide, over-kicked it.
Matthew Allen, we mentioned earlier, South Australian boy. He was a quick bowler as a junior cricketer, I think in one of the junior state squads in South Australia, but about 12 or so months before the draft decided to concentrate on footy. And he's concentrating on this kick right now. And that's not bad. Lovely connection.
Starting to see some positives, aren't we, now for the West Coast Eagles?
And it's good those positives are deep in the last quarter.
Yep. You need to take something home when you get beaten like this. You need to ensure there's a couple of young kids can put a smile on the coach's face when you get on that plane tonight.
Going to be hard for him to find a spot in the West Coast forward line this year, with such variety of quality they have up there with Kennedy and Darling.
But that's the instruction to these young guys is to fight. You're going to have to fight for a spot in this side. So don't give up on the fact that, yeah, we've got some guns here, but you know chance. If you fight and you perform at waffle level, then the opportunities will come.
Just having a look into the centre bounce here, and you can just see Dean Gore, who's just put that tackle on there. He was involved in the Dangerfield trade, wasn't he? For Patrick Dangerfield?
He was. Yeah, he was involved. I think it ended up being pick 9, pick 28 and Dean Gore. So Adelaide used number 9 for Miller. Number 28 ended up being Troy Menzel from Carlton.
Yep.
And then Dean Gore. So they got 3 players in the end for Paddy Dangerfield, which is probably what you have to do to try and break even.
Yeah, it's a good discussion, isn't it? I mean, when you see what Miller has done today, you never want to lose at Dangerfield, but it makes it easy when someone stamps themselves almost instantly as a player for the future.
Well, everyone talks about your first selection. Like all your selections are important, but your first one, your first rounder, you want to get that. You want to get that right. And from looks of today, Adelaide have done that with Miller. His composure has been the standout for me. Just that ability to to control a situation, step at the right time and hit an effective disposal.
And they're still applying some pressure late and giving some opportunities. Carpeney this time's able to take it and reduce the margin back to a clean 100 points. Probably the pressure's gone off a bit from the Adelaide Crows late in the game.
That's still a difficult skill to execute, to finish that snap under tackle pressure. It just shows that he has the strength in his core to stay with the kick. Look at this here. You see him just get tugged as he's about to kick that ball and still gets it to go where it needs to go. I know it's a left foot snap, so it's probably favoured him in the end. But
a little change of pace there as well. That
clever.
That 4 steps where he just did a little burst, and that allowed him just to get the space he needed to finish off nicely.
So dying seconds of this game, and in the end we're going to have a nice even 100-point victory for the Adelaide Crows. 2 super goals, 20 goals, 10, 148, defeating the West Coast Eagles 7-6-48. Huge gap in the difference of experience between these two sides. So obviously it was going to be a different result, but certainly some positives to both teams, and the home side well satisfied with what they've unveiled with their young players and the form of their older ones.
Crouch, Miller, Gore, probably the big winners today. Eddie Betts put on the show.
Yeah, didn't he?
But in terms of what they found today, the Adelaide Crows coaching panel walk away and say, OK, that's a big tick. That's a great start, boys. But don't get too carried away. We've beaten a very undermanned West Coast Eagles that really didn't show a lot for the bulk of the day. Hutchings was OK. Some flashy finishes at the end there for some youngsters just to give a little something for Adam Simpson to take home. But probably disappointing all in all the West Coast.